This is something I've noticed a lot in the kind of music that I really like listening to. When somebody makes art or music or film, any of these kind of arts, and they're really good and they capture the minds of people and generations and blah, blah, blah. Oftentimes, there's an unimaginable amount of misery that comes into play for them to create that art. Oftentimes. And in a lot of the times, like let's talk about art and music. Let's say classical music. A lot of these famous artists and musicians weren't really even that well known during the time that they were alive, and it's only after they died that they began to gain popularity because some hipster would turn their particular art pieces or their particular music into like their niche thing, some rich hipster, right? And it would just catch on. And even then, artists in general are very damaged, very emotionally and mentally damaged people because they essentially made a career out of telling everybody that they can never understand how to interact with other human beings. And other people see it as, oh, so beautiful and inspirational, just so much abstract detail. And yet it's like they're only doing this because they have no other way to communicate what they actually feel, going as far as creating personas and pen names to be able to express what's actually on their mind. And, one, at least for me, I really enjoy, I enjoy all kinds of music. I really do. And I do enjoy art from time to time. I enjoy looking at, certain art pieces and everything. Even literature, even poetry and all that. Think of, some of your most favorite movies and, ask yourself, is this something that somebody created when they were happy? Or, what kind of themes are in this series or this movie and why are they there, I watch a lot of anime. I talk about anime quite a bit. And to me, because these anime manga writers, the creators of the animes, are Japanese and grown up in Japanese society, all that. Everything that they put on paper, no matter how vivid, no matter how like otherworldly it is, they are basing this off of their experiences within Japanese society. And that's one reason why Japan has really managed to wipe its hands off of the really horrific atrocities they committed in World War II. And it's not by accident. But even then, anime is such a, like, I don't want to say it's like uh the only the only insight into Japanese society, but it's a very common entry point into it. Mm, it's a very easy to access perspective into Japanese society, created by somebody who, they've condensed their experiences and in their philosophies in a way that even kids can understand them, and that takes so much skill. It really does. But even then, even watching, I love Naruto, as you know. And what I love so much about Naruto is that even the side characters have a massive fan base. You can find a massive fan base for people who just like Rock Lee or Gara or Shikamaru or Jiraiya, Kakashi. Okay, maybe you can call Kakashi maybe a more mainish character. But I mean, the main character is Naruto, right? But let's say Naruto and Sasuke. But even then, every single one of them just has so much depth to them that I have rarely seen of other media that I've ever consumed. And yet, you know, however vivid these characters are and the things that they've said and the effect that they've had on us, these are things that were created by human beings. These are lessons that human beings have observed, and uh, they've put it to us in a way that we can understand incredibly well. But what did they have to experience to be able to write things down and say them in such a way that so many people find them this profound? Like, that's to me why I love even Madara so much, and his speech about waking up to reality. It is iconic. It is going to continue to be iconic for so many more years, for many generations, because it's simply the plain truth. Now, what he decided to do with that truth, you can argue about. But the speech Madara gave to Obito, what he said to Obito, was just the plain truth. So, what is it that the writers had to experience to be able to put that on paper? Because that's while it is the truth, you have to get to a very hopeless and dark place for you to actually realize that this is what this reality is. And it's the sickening it's the sickening catch, right? Because to be really good, to be really successful in this society, this culture, this reality, it means overcoming adversity, or selling people adversity in a way that shows them that you've overcome it when you really haven't. I know it doesn't make much sense, but all these stories of, oh, I was born in a slum, and we only had like rats and fucking like dirt cookies to eat every day, and now I have like 7 mansions, and you can do it too. This it's in Christianity, with this televangelist, it's called the prosperity gospel. So I'll just call everything else the secular prosperity gospel, right? Motivation porn, wage slavery porn, basically, all that. Even think of like your favorite rock bands and everything. Like these, to be in the music industry, to me, the music industry is one of the careers with one of the shortest life expectancies, especially for really uh, high achieving musicians. You know, Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, uh, well, that's about it. Those are all the rock artists I know. you know, but it's not that common that you'll see all your favorite, your music artists living to, 70 or 80, whatever. Not like you would necessarily even want to live that long, but let's just use what's in this reality. Let's just go by the parameters of this reality. You could probably say they've lived fulfilling lives and then they died, right? But at the same time, they've lived very torturous lives. Like, one of my favorite musicians is Mac Miller. And I really loved Mac Miller's music because he was just authentic. He was so authentic, and he was very like a wide-eyed type of musician, right? Or a rapper. You could sense that he was always somehow having fun when he was rapping about the things he was rapping about. At the same time, though, he had suffered from drug addiction and depression and all these other mental illnesses for like most of his career, especially when his career was taking off. He could never shake it off. And he ended up dying because of it at age 26. He didn't even make it to age 27. And in so many of his songs, you can literally, in fact, on the last album he released, or was it the album that he released before he died or shortly after he died? There's songs where you can literally hear in the background saying, "Help me." And I've heard that "help me," or "I need some help, somebody come save me," blah, 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 like over and over and over again, and especially in the later years of his music. So, you know, am I a villain for participating in that misery as a fan of his, as listening to his, the thing is, maybe I was also going through that kind of mental struggle, so his music made sense to me. It still makes sense to me. I still listen to it now. At the same time, what the hell am I gonna do as some random obscure fan, You can say, I hope he gets the help he needs and everything, but ultimately, we're just seeing these artists being butchered right in front of us for our own entertainment. That's why I say good art requires misery. Look at Kanye West right now. He is absolutely spiraling. Like, completely spiraling. And it's gotten to the point where even I, as somebody who, he's had a massive effect on my personality and my way of thinking. I can't deny that. But I can't defend him. I can't. I simply can't. All right? If I was like a teenager, I'd be like, oh, Kanye's just being edgy and he's just being, he's not going with the flow. But I can clearly see this guy is going through so much mental illness and he's conscious about it. And he's also using that mental illness to be a piece of shit to everybody around him. How the hell does he have me feeling sympathetic for Kim Kardashian? Really? That's what the point to which this has gotten. Kanye West has made me feel sympathy for Kim Kardashian. I don't even know what timeline we're living in anymore. And the thing is, he's always been an asshole. He's always been an asshole, and yet you can tell maybe he there was something that he never had in his life that he constantly keeps searching for and he'll never find it. Blah, blah. You can call him a narcissist. But look how far he went with that mentality. People literally suck this guy's ass. People suck this guy's rectum. No matter how far he continues to drop, and it's so, it keeps reaffirming to me how, you see, even Lizzo, as much as I talk about this fat acceptance, fat positivity, blah, 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 I've never made a video about Lizzo, and I don't think I ever will, because to me, this is just torture porn. Lizzo is one of these artists that I'm talking about. She just happens to be obese. She feeds into the obesity hate, but at the same time, even if she dropped down to whatever weight it is these people want her to be, it will not end. It won't. It won't end. That's what I realize, and that's why I don't even hate her anymore. It's just sad to me. This happens to these artists all the time. I'm sad at the fact that they're actually they're actual just meat puppets entertaining other meat puppets. I'm not sad about them being rich and famous, don't get me wrong. I'm so sad that we are watching them, we're paying them to make us feel good. But then they realize that they have no actual power. And when they try and tell people, they can't even get the message out because their mindset has already been eroded, right? It's all about them, and they're the ones who only have the answers, right? They have to get it out whatever way they see fit. So again, why the hell it's just one of these sick twisted rationalizations of pushing on this generational psychosis is that a little bit of bad isn't so bad. Look, if Kanye West's mom didn't die, we wouldn't have had dark twisted fantasy, basically, right? If I don't know, if the Titanic didn't crash, then by the way, I don't actually give a fuck. I don't know why the Titanic is so deeply ingrained in Western culture, like the crashing of the Titanic, because like there's a bunch of pompous rich people who said it's a whites only cruise, right? Like, you know, I really don't see much of value that was lost that day. More so because they were playing God, and the fact that like they created a ship that could never be sunk, and on its first voyage it sunk. And yet it's just continued to capture people's minds like this. Like it's a fucking ship that, like, do you think that's okay, I guess, yeah, maybe it was the unsinkable ship, that's why it's so pervasive, but it's nothing special to me, really. I think the greatest art form to me doesn't even exist. It's not existing is an art form. Blending in is actually an art form. You might think that uh not fitting in is just a state. It's a natural state, right? You can say I've never been able to fit here or there or whatever, but blending in is an art form. And I think that a lot of these artists attempt to blend in to the rest of us, to blend in with the rest of us by creating this art, or if not, by putting us into their own sphere of influence. And yet there's only so much that you can understand parasocially about this other person, and that you can like their music and what they produce, but you meeting the person themselves will leave you very disappointed. Never meet your heroes, really. They never actually existed. They really didn't. Which is quite funny because I was making fun of my friend who said he liked Batman, and fucking Batman is literally one of the most obvious villains in comic book history because he's a billionaire. Bruce, what's his name? I was gonna call him Bruce Banner. Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is a billionaire. And with those billions of dollars that he has, he could have solved so many systemic issues that exist in Gotham, whether it's poverty, whether it's crime, whether it's whatever, keeping kids off the street. He could have solved that a long time ago, right? With his billions of dollars. And he would still be rich after all of it, even if he spent like 80% of it. But you know what this asshole decides to do? You know what this asshole decides to do? He decides to put on a Halloween costume and then go and beat up teenagers for like stealing a pack of Doritos at night, right? This is not allowed. Stealing Doritos hurts the corporations. I mean, really, right? Maybe that's what the writers of Batman wanted us to see, that Batman actually isn't really a good person at all. And he's also using his trauma as an orphan, right? It's not a great trauma at all, but he's using his trauma as an orphan to justify why he goes to beat up homeless people at night instead of being like, you know what? Why don't I just build housing for these people? Right? That would be too easy. I guess that would also be too easy, and then the story wouldn't have any continuity. But it seems to me that's a pretty massive plot hole, in my opinion. But I don't know whether that's a digression, but I think it's pretty relevant, you know? So, try and think about, why you love your favorite artists or musicians or whatever, filmmakers. And, maybe you've already read some of their stories, so you can pretty much tell, yeah, this guy lived a pretty Heck, comedians are the best example of this, Most comedians have lived very fucked up lives, very traumatizing lives. And I don't think comedy can happen without trauma, right? I really don't. Because it's like the final stage of a coping mechanism. All you can do is just laugh about it at the end of the day.